Okay. All right, man. Listen, Neal, thank you. Welcome. Benzo,
Good
is that
to be
shirt
here.
tight enough?
I asked for extra medium. So
Extra medium.
Extra medium.
Yeah.
Fits perfectly.
Guys, so just a quick one. So we're wearing the new Fitbox logo shirt. So there's no new company or anything like that. It's just a rebrand. So we just rebranded. You'll see a logo behind. I don't think the other one's in the camera to see. But so basically we all got together probably through Fitbox to some degree. I knew Neal beforehand when he was at Mob and entered some of the comps. I knew this guy from Benzo from like 2012, eh?
Yeah, it's just like general misfortune of meeting someone you can't get rid of.
Sadly rocked up at the gym wanting to get healthy.
Yes.
Where would you say you were with your health then?
I mean, better than I am now. So can't shit on past Ben too much.
I was going to say you were probably
Yeah.
healthier walking in then.
Yeah, don't join Fitbox.
And then what happened? You came in with your long hair and you started training.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at checking out a couple of boxes that day. I'd never done CrossFit, never even heard about CrossFit. Then I was like, let me check this out, see what it's like. I had 4 boxes on my list for that day. Fitbox Durban was first hit on my list. It was 2 facilities ago. It was the original.
It's like back when you were in the little hockey.
Little dingy little hockey there, and Garth was there. There was no one there. I was like knocking, and then Garth sits up off the couch, which he was sleeping on, in a hoodie. Didn't bother to put the hoodie back and come and say hello. And I was like, this sounds like my place.
This is the place to be.
Just signed up, yeah.
Yeah. And then Neal, where did we meet? We met just obviously a while ago at the comps, but then basically COVID just brought you, eh?
Yeah, but I mean, obviously we'd have seen each other around circles. I think like Outlaw Camp would have been the first, but I think there's still a video somewhere of me lifting and you in the background somewhere.
Yeah, I was just actually trying to think now.
Sounds
That's
right.
also like that was 2012.
Standing
and we
around
did
as
the first
usual,
thing. Yeah,
pretending to train.
that was 2013, I think, as well. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that
we
would have
actually
been
know
about
each other.
2013.
Yeah. So it's when the Outlaw came, that was Rudy and them.
And then, obviously through comps and Clash in the North, I think one of your first ones, even at Tiger Valley in the parking lot, we had some teams and whatever there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously then COVID and you popped in.
And then COVID, when I had to close my box, then ended up spending way too much time here and haven't left for some weird reason.
So we keep talking about what we're going to do next, but we're actually just all comfortable hanging out here. And now Ben's back in the Paul. I keep saying the Paul, but it's actually Stellenbosch.
Yeah, my practice is in Stellenbosch now. I've got a sports medicine practice there. As of like this week. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're all set up now?
All set up.
Yeah, so I was there last week, and so I put in, because you obviously send your PIN, and you said you're in Paul. So I'm driving to Paul automatically.
I'm in Paul.
Not following.
I've never said I'm in Paul. I don't know where this came from ever.
Paul Rose, same thing. So we were there last week. That was quite a cool setup, eh? So tell us about that setup quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, my office it's a medical practice, obviously. There's a separate room, which is the procedure room, where we do any medical procedures, and then we've got a little bit of a podcast office set up in the office. So it's like a little lounge. We got some coffee machines and couches, and Mark's always set up. So we're just going to be adding good value to the internet as we go.
Okay, so that's the main goal. So we're going to come out there once a week. You and Neal are going to shoot some night shots.
Yep.
Because you guys don't have kids.
Yep.
So you guys are going to meet up at like 10, 11, shoot some stuff, shoot some content, and then I'll try tap into the other stuff.
It'll be much better without you.
Definitely more views.
More views, yeah.
Yeah, so try shoot all the nice stuff then, and then all the shitty stuff okay, so where do we want to go with this? So we wanted to try and get into the previous chat that we had with Rupert, actually. So Rupert was there with us at your other setup.
Yep.
Neal couldn't make it, and then we chatted just briefly about what the goals were for you to come into the Fitbox realm, because I think that's essentially what we're trying to create. It's just like a little bit of a fitness hub kind of place, or a lifestyle hub, and then trying to include me, you, and Neal to some degree. Eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So take us through that a little bit, like not too detailed, because obviously we had the previous one, and then I think Neal can maybe give us, because Neal's got quite a good insight to how he's going to fit into the whole thing, just to put pressure on people, kind of like for the whole project. I think Neal's got the bigger picture of the project. We've got the let's help the individual.
Yeah.
I think Neal's got the let's help the world kind of side.
Look, it's actually quite strange. I think this whole topic is a little bit bizarre, because essentially what we're trying to do is help people be a little bit less fat and be a little bit more healthy.
Yeah.
That's essentially like, if you're taking small steps towards health over the long term, it pays off and you live a long, healthy life. you don't need someone to sit down and say, go run more, go eat more broccoli. Like, it's very interesting that our profession even exists, any of our professions. Because, I mean, look, if you look at human nature, okay, so if you look at like evolutionary standpoint is we are designed to survive. And in order to survive, let's say tomorrow, the next day, we have to be disgruntled with where we are today. It has to be. So we're looking always to move forward. So we're always unhappy when a need arises. So for example, like if you think about now, we're sitting here, no one sitting here has thought about, oh, I'm so grateful for this air that I'm breathing. No one. But if you think about like more than a year ago, there was a little submarine exploring the Titanic with the billionaires and it disappeared. I'm telling you, in the last moments of those guys' existence, they would have given all that they had for the air that we're breathing right now. But you take those oaks out of there and you give them a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, they don't give a shit about the air. They completely forget about that. So like, but the same happens with our health. It's like, now I'm sick, now I'm fat, now I'm unhealthy, now I want to change. Where actually what you need to be doing is taking a little bit of a more perspicacious look at your life and going, actually I can do things now so that I don't end up there. But you can't trust your body or your mind even to say, I'm going to do this now. Because we're not designed to do that. We're designed to just survive for the next day, until it's a need. Then when it's a need, like desire is born out of need. So like their desire for air was born out of the need to breathe. Like I can guarantee you not one of them were keen to have sex at that time that they were about to die. You know what I mean? Like that desire just didn't exist at that time. You know what I mean? So you can't wait for the desire to become healthy to start to change towards health, is what I'm trying to say. Because physiologically we're not designed that way, and psychologically we're not designed to think that way. So what we're trying to do with the three of us is put steps in place, easy to execute steps that people can understand, to say, okay, I know long term I want to live a long, healthy life. I know that psychologically I'm not geared to do that, but I can put these steps in place now to be able to ensure that in the long run I achieve what I want to achieve.
So the simple steps that we're doing, which Neal and I are talking endlessly on, he actually came back to me. We spoke about it probably a year and a half ago. What do we need to be doing that's super simple? Spoke about it. Then he came to me, he's like, just give me the 5 things that we're going to do simply. And then we started going on a tangent, and it's that simple. It's like our brains just want comfort.
Yes.
And as soon as we're comfortable, we're fine. And then we're getting more and more comfortable, getting more and more fat, getting more and more lazy, getting more and more just choked up on our phones, on social media, whatever it is. And it's that simple brain kind of mentality of like, 10 years later, oh shit, now I need to do something about it, you know.
For sure.
Whereas I was actually talking to the kids this week, we were talking about health, so I'm trying to get the little kids to understand suffering. You were here for that talk the other day when I was doing it with the grade ones. I'm trying to get the grade ones to understand suffering.
So let me just tell you what I heard. So there's a bunch of grade ones here. Garth goes, what do you guys understand by suffering? Like all of them simultaneously. Torture. You're like, what are these kids learning?
Yeah, so clearly kids have this... So I had to quickly change that, and then I told them, please go home and tell mom and dad that you want to suffer. So the one kid this week, because now it's a week later, he's like, I told my mom and dad, and they were like, what? And then I explained to them that suffering is actually just me working hard.
Nice.
So it's quite cute. But yeah, so I mean, like trying to just ingrain it into kids even to understand that we need to work hard. And I think the picture that I painted for them was like, we've got all these comforts, we've got way too many comforts, and we're still trying to dig into the next level of why am I unhealthy, where it's like, hey man, have a look at all the comforts that you're doing, maybe take away some of the comforts.
For sure.
So then I think Neal then started up with a 5 kind of goals. Then I tweaked them just to make it one suffering, and we spoke about it and this and that. So I think the biggest thing is for Neal to give us that massive overview of like what we spoke about. I think the most recent one when we chatted outside there, I think like give us where that is, you know.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's just how do we make things simple, and where are we missing the mark in terms of health? So, you know, prevention is always better than cure, which is basically, I think, to sum up what Ben was sort of saying, and to what Garth was saying, is that it's very easy for us to sort of just get comfortable, and if we stay in our environments which we created through modern living, it's slowly killing us to a point, because we have too much comfort and it's making us lazy, it's making us fat, we have too much convenience around, and it puts us in a position where if we don't break those things which are now socially acceptable, it's very easy for us to get trapped in a loop which actually slowly degrades us as a human being in terms of health and mental and physical well-being. So in keeping things simple, you've got 5 things that we all need to do. We need to eat, we need to move our body, we need to sleep, we need to stay hydrated, and we need to take care of ourselves mentally, all right? If we're not touching on each of those aspects, one of those things fall, it can drag down the next and become some of a domino effect. So, what we're looking at doing with what we're bringing to the table here is going, okay, from a simple health perspective, I've been in this business for 20 years, helping people try to get fitter, lose weight, change their bodies in whatever aspect they're looking to do. There's a massive gap between what we're doing and actually people getting the results long-term and what they need. Often people come in, they get results on a short-term basis, they fall off the wheel, they have to find themselves again. I've had to help people lose 20 kilograms twice. Why is that? All right? Create habits around what we're doing. Everything is aimed at quick fixes, selling a product to get you results on a short-term basis. What we need to do is change how we're doing those things. And that comes from creating different habits, and that starts in the mind, not just a physical thing that we need to do. But in this relationship between health and fitness in the medical world, there's this gap where people are sort of falling through, and how do we sort of bridge that gap? And that starts with just people taking their own health into their own hands and focusing on those 5 little things. Like, am I moving? We created a world where we sit at our desk, sit at our car, sit watching TV. Some people are getting 2,000-3,000 steps in a day. We're not designed for that. All right, that's going to lead us down a path where our health markers are going to fall. We've sacrificed sleep to be productive or have a screen in our face for longer than we need to. We've sacrificed nutrition by living off social occasions of it's acceptable to drink this, eat this every time we want to celebrate something, to the convenience of food in our fridge whenever we want something. We've sacrificed water by replacing it with all sorts of other things that have additives in it because we want flavor, we want this. We're designed to drink water. Why aren't we drinking more of that? Mental health has become strained because there's pressure on us from society to look at everything around us, and we need to measure up to this, judge ourselves on that comparison along all of those different lines. So, stressed to meet the markers of what we've been told we need to achieve and not look at what actually makes us happy as a person, or am I taking care of that? And then from there, the food in our bodies is not the same as what it was, plenty of years ago, because everything's been ultra processed, put on a shelf. What are we doing in terms of that? So, again, those conveniences of looking for these quick fixes, or, how many people are actually doing home cooked meals or doing things these days where we rely on takeouts or food that comes to us in a package, and what do we know we're really putting in our body? So all of these little markers, just doing little bits, and you've got to start where you're at, all right? And that's the whole thing of we don't want to go, okay, I'm going to change my whole life around, and then in 2 weeks you're not doing any of those things anymore, but educating people on the small steps that they can start with today, that we're looking at a long-term process and not that quick fix that's delivering us results in the long run. So that is sort of the bigger picture of what we're doing, and through all of our experiences and knowledge that we've built up through dealing with people and helping people through the years, we want to put that together to create something that makes lasting change. That's one of the biggest frustrations I've always had, is that I felt I can only deal with those people coming to me face to face. And even with that, you got to try and meet people where they're at. Are they ready for certain changes? Some people will take 2 years before they make their steps on their nutrition. Their first step was getting active. Then it takes them time. And it's just about meeting people where they're at and understanding that, okay, depending on where you're at, you might have more urgency in a certain thing. If you come to me and you have bad sugar or that type of thing, you need to make that change today. Otherwise, 2 years will be too late. You're going to have diabetes and have other sort of problems. But we need to realize that it's not about those quick fixes and what we're doing in the long run. Cool, I need to lose 10 kilos. The goal isn't a month from now. The goal is potentially only 5 months from now, because that's going to help you keep it off. So those aspects of health and making long-lasting changes by creating better habits around what we're doing and lifestyle changes, that's the goal, and the smaller things that we need to be focused on doing.
So I just didn't want to miss a question there. So one of the things that I was just thinking now is that we have to be our own doctor, our own person to fix what we need to do, and you need to choose, like you're saying there, where are you now? Let's fix that thing now, and then try not look at the 10 other things that you're doing wrong. Those 5 pillars that we're trying to give the guys to have a look at. If you're simply not drinking water, that's step number 1. That's probably the most before air, like, okay, so we need air, then we need water.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that we're not drinking water, and then it's like, okay, not the quality of the water, but like, where is your water intake and what do you understand about it, And I think I woke up to that, I think it was in lockdown, watching that, what's that pretty guy?
Zac Efron.
Yeah. So watching
So
that.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then watching that. And then that was my big awakening to water. I was like, okay, I've taken for granted. I was always just drinking water out the tap, which, okay, it's not the worst thing to be doing. But Vicky was always drinking water out of bottles, this and that. And I was like, okay, I need to switch. I need to make sure that there's mineral content in my water,
I read a very interesting study on the frogs. This is in America. Frogs living in tap water. And something like, I can't remember the exact number, it was close to 80%, it was like 78% of the male frogs living in the tap water became hermaphrodites and couldn't reproduce.
Nice.
Fascinating. So that's American tap water.
So we're losing
I don't know that our tap water is the same, but I would assume it's not that different.
It's not
Anyway.
Neal.
Neal.
So that was the one thing. So people need to be their own doctor. So try.
So you don't need me, guys.
Yeah. So try fix it yourself. So fix it yourself and just tick off the small things that you're not doing well, and then try and have a look at, okay, what is the slightly larger thing that I need to start ticking off? So I think where people need to understand is that come and see me where you're starting to exercise. So you mentioned now, like, someone's going to go exercise. Then from there, okay, cool, what's next? I've been doing this for a year. I've got a client now, we were talking yesterday. She's been going for about 8 months, and like 10 kgs different now, and her medical stuff is completely different. So she's changed all of her kind of like, she's gone from 8 medications down to 3. And in 8 months, her focus isn't on weight loss. It's going to be just on kind of like, where can I get my body to feel better, and where can I go to? And we're consulting with Hills Medical Center. So just that longer approach of like, where am I at and what can I fix like now to just get there,
Sorry, G. Donna's just saying it's a bit soft in the back, so just talk loud.
Okay.
I'll control the volume of the
Okay.
podcast from here.
You guys can also just come closer. Eh?
Yes, Donna.
Just come closer. Just come right here. Right here. Oh, Lindsay's here actually. So I was actually mentioning, so we were chatting, so Lindsay and I caught up yesterday. That video actually pulled through, by the way. So we've got some of that content, so I'll maybe cut some of that in or just put that on the thing. So Lindsay actually had a checkup yesterday, and so it's 8 months later and super on track, like super on track. I'll actually pull some of the stuff in, I'll show you guys later. But I mean, it's choosing those little things to just tick off,
Yes. And kind of getting back to what we're trying to achieve with the three of us is, with those things, there are also certain parameters that you should be keeping a close eye on objectively. Not, oh, I feel better today. Maybe you just slept well. It's not to say like, oh, now you're in a good, healthy position. The next day you might feel terrible. So what we're looking at doing is maybe making some sort of plans towards things. Obviously, nutrition and training, sleep, discomfort, all of those things, but then also monitoring it on an objective basis. Like, come to me and do bloods that we can start tracking biomarkers over a long period of time. And even biomarkers is not that helpful, because you kind of get these ranges, these reference ranges of, oh, you fall in the normal reference range. But even those, they vary from lab to lab, and also they vary from person to person. Some people, let's say, have a very low testosterone normally. They were born that way and they've had no adverse effects. You'll do their test and you'll see, oh, this person falls way out of the bracket, we need to give them testosterone. You don't necessarily need to do that. But if you've got data of that person over a long period of time and you can see they're dropping over a period of time, you can do that. So one of the things that you can do with what we're setting up now is come and see me, or it doesn't have to be any doctor you want. It's just much more convenient in the package deal. Is Garth can say, we've done this implementation, we're expecting these biomarkers to go down, can we track that? So it just becomes a little bit more scientific,
so
a little bit more objective.
Objective thing. So you come to, you come through the Fitbox kind of realm. We introduce you to fitness training. We do it in body, so we get a couple of those kind of results.
Yes.
But then from there, you're saying that we need to obviously get into more results. So what results should a woman be doing then from like base one?
I mean, like, need is a strong word. You don't need any of this. Like I said, you don't even need us. Like, if you just live a healthier life, you'll be fine. But physiologically, you're not going to do that. That's why we have sickness in the world. But yeah, I mean, so for women, there's a lot of tests. We would test very broadly. This is not just for women, for men and women. You want to know all of your organs and endocrine glands are functioning well. So are your kidneys functioning well, liver functioning well, pancreas functioning well? Those are important. And then you start looking at things like hormones. So that'll be sex hormones, will be testosterone in men, estrogen and progesterone in women. There's derivatives, those are that we test as well, but basically estrogen and progesterone are the big two. Then we've got thyroid hormone. This is both for men and women, but we see it more in women. There's all sorts of they call it CMP, which is basically calcium, magnesium, and phosphate, but that's a broad term for mineral densities in your bodies. Are your minerals right? Are your electrolytes right? And from there it just gets scary, because you can start looking at things like cholesterol, and it's like, well, what types of cholesterol? Well, LDL and HDL, and then we take it further with ApoA and ApoB, and it's as far as you want to spend money. Essentially, I've got quite a nice little list in my office of like how much each blood test costs, and so people see that and they're like, oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll start. You sign up at the box. This is what it costs. Then you come see Ben, and then there's like a end point, and then you go see Neal, and there's like a Z point.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, basically, it's we need to find what it is specific to you that needs to be tracked. Okay. Not necessarily, you don't need to, if you've got healthy kidney function now, I'm not going to do kidney functions for you every single month. It's pointless.
Yeah. Okay. So would I still, should I still, so I'm 36 now, my grandfather's got cancer, people around have got cancer, like Neal's client got cancer now. There's 2 other clients here that have cancer. My other client just got breast cancer now. Like it's just floating around you, like, I want to go for a prostate check. I don't want to go to Justin for a prostate check. I'll gladly do
it for you, bro.
But I'd like to just go get my blood done, and then they can check markers. Yes. What markers of cancer can you check just with blood work, and what do you physically have to go get checked?
So there's tons. Prostate is an easy one. Obviously, no benefit for females here, but prostate you can do a blood test to check. You do get some prostate cancers that you will unfortunately feel before it'll show up in the blood. So it's not just say... You can just, it's quite interesting, because generally you'll go see someone, they'll do a blood test. They'll very rarely do the...
Okay. Because Neal's client, so one of Neal's clients, so he actually didn't pick it up with his physical check, eh?
I'm not sure I picked it up,
Okay. I think it was his, what's it, your
PSA.
Your PSA levels, So I just heard him and Jeremy chatting, and then it was like his markers were at 2, then he went for the physical, and I think it was at 5 or something like that. And then it's like, okay, let's go for a scan. So then they went for a scan.
Good.
For ladies, because obviously there's a few ladies that I want to be chatting to be like, hey man, like go check for breast scans and things like that. Can you pick up those levels in blood work?
You can. There's specific genes that you test for to see, are you susceptible to breast cancers? And there's different types of genes. So it's called the BRCA, breast cancer. They call it the BRCA gene. So you test for that. And there's other genetic tests that you can do to see, because certain cancers that are found in breast are highly predictive for things like cervical cancer, ovarian cancer. So there's very nice predictive markers that you can see. Okay, we have a positive flag here. We know this is associated with X, Y, and Z. So we can be a little bit more proactive on that, and then you screen for that yearly.
Okay, so you would say check that yearly, and from what age should we start making sure clients are doing it? Like for men?
So for men, 40 and up.
Okay. Do you think 40 is still a fine number? Should I go?
You're right there, bro. Wait till you're 40.
36.
Fun
Neal,
at
you
40.
going for your first check?
Strong.
Are you going to go for your first check?
Eh?
Are you going to go for your first check?
Ben and I do it daily.
Oh, so you're fine. Okay. So the other one was the woman one. Okay, so we've checked.
And then breast cancer is also something that you should be screening for. So that's what you do a mammogram for that, which is an imaging study. So don't worry too much about the bloods, because again, you can have these things showing up without it showing up in the bloods. Bloods are not necessarily highly specific. Things like colon cancers will flag in the blood. But things like breast cancers don't necessarily do so. Okay. So the imaging for women is much more important. If you have found a lump and you've had it checked, just have a mammogram every 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
Yep. All
right. So those are all the checks. So then from there, I think the bigger thing then after is so how do we take people? Yes, okay, we want to do all the basics. So people are doing the basics, they don't need us. All right. So they come here, they go to you. From there is the mental health, and that's where I think so mentally I'm definitely healthier because of Neal. So like I think the last 2 years I don't talk to anybody except for my wife, and then she tells me to shut up. But talking to someone definitely
love you, Vicky.
Yeah, definitely helps. Even though Neal's the biggest introvert that I know, and he's got the face of I don't want to talk to you the whole day.
It's true.
And then I sometimes come to him, I'm like, hey man, can we chat? And then, so we end up chatting, and then that's actually what I want to start recording more. Like, okay, let me just put my phone up, let's have this deep conversation. But we end up having a deep mental health conversation of where should people not be scared to go to and start talking, and not the basic stuff like going to see a psychologist or like going to the basics, but talking to the person next to your buddy a little bit more, just about general stuff, because I don't think we're talking anymore. Like, so I think one of the things that humans aren't doing is getting together and just having a fat conversation and just chatting. I think Vanna and Noel came to me the other day to drop off the Jenny, and we ended up having an hour conversation out here. And I said to him, I was like, that was a lekker bro chat. Like, we just spoke shit about random stuff and this and that, and it was lekker. So I think for Neal, like, where should people be with their mental health more and more simple? Like, what should we be doing more simple on that mental health game that I think maybe you've helped me with? Not going into too much depth maybe, but let's chat about a little bit like what I've done mentally to like switch up things around me, you know?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, again, just to have more conversations. We live our lives mostly nowadays on our device, or, you know, we don't go out to meet people, like, you know, and even if you think from a community aspect, which is, you know, when you look at a lot of longevity studies, one of the biggest factors about living long is your community aspect. And those people who live surrounded by other people who have similar likes and interests and have that community live longer. You know, so this is obviously where something like CrossFit has pulled people together, like similar likes and interests, and you get together and you talk and you chat. But for a lot of people, you know, even if you take people sitting at a dinner table, sometimes people sitting across from each other, husband and wife, and they're on their cell phone more than they might be having a conversation with each other. So if you're not having conversations with those people around you, and we're not talking about just like, oh, how was the weather, or, you know, did you see this random, you know, video that I watched on my phone, like actually talking, being vulnerable and opening, having conversations about, you know, what is going on in your life, and, you know, what's bothering you, what's making you happy, and talking through those sort of factors, you're not going to be in touch with, you know, people feeling connected to something bigger, and that's a huge mental aspect. So, yeah, having those conversations, getting away, just, you know, we need to move our bodies more, go for a walk. You know, like, even though I take in my life, the minute we brought a dog into our life and we started walking more, we had more conversations, you know, because you're not surrounded by close distractions at home where it's like, oh, it's easy to just put on this Netflix or to look on my device and get distracted by this and that. So big thing is just switch off away from certain things and switch on to the people around you. You know, that's going to be number one. Make sure you have, you know, people who you're having those conversations with, you know, and be open and vulnerable to that. You know, and then secondly, like exercising, doing certain things that are tough in your day, that make the rest of your day easier to cope with. If you're not challenging yourself in some way from a mental aspect of like, I don't want to do this thing, it's tough, whether that's sitting in a sauna when it's getting hot, whether that's doing a tough workout or getting into a cold plunge or a cold shower. Those things that are tough prepare us for the rest of our day. So it's challenging you mentally to make you stronger to face the things that are coming at you in the rest of the day. If we live on a basis of too much comfort, the smaller things are going to seem more difficult than they need to be. All right. The other thing that I would put to that as well is, you know, learning to not complain about everything. You know, like complaining doesn't help you. You either have control of it or you don't have control of it. If you don't have control of it, there's no point in complaining about it. You know, if you have control of it, go do something about it. Action will cure that anxiety or that sort of stress away from it. You know, so it's just taking and learning to be with who you are and learning to understand those emotions of certain things and where you're dealing with, and then taking action towards it. But, you know, like Garth said, having a conversation, that's going to be number one. Getting that community basis is going to carry you through on a long point, and that's easy enough to do. You know, if you're not connected, you're going to not be connected with yourself on a mental basis either. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there then, obviously, you're a great person to come and talk to, and people obviously don't see that. They're like, oh, Neal's quiet in the corner, you know, whatever it is. So
Angry bird.
Yeah, so there's a giant angry bird in the corner. So I think what I'm trying to do for people this year as well, so on a couple of areas. So we're starting like a community group for Fitbox where we're going to have just people putting their businesses on our page and talking about it, you know, just to try and link business first, but try and link the community more where we're talking more openly. So I think a thing that I was always scared of is kind of talking openly just about, I don't know, like my own mental health, this and that, talking about what can I do to fix this. And one of the big things that I'm struggling with yesterday was these kids. So these kids are killing me. So yesterday morning, trying to get in the car, can't remember what the story was. We put almond milk in Emily's cereal. So then I put a little bit of milk in so she doesn't mess in the fucking car. So I then went to go buy milk for coffee, came back, put it like in the kitchen. Then Vicky grabbed it and said, "Oh, but do you want some more milk?" And I've specifically not put lots of milk in the thing so it doesn't mess in the car. So then Emily says yes, but now we're already late for school. We're already like, so I'm like, okay, Vicky, you've just gone and dug a deeper hole here for me, and now I'm gonna have to drive slow, make sure she doesn't mess it. What happened? Driving to school, milk everywhere, milk all over her, all over seat. So that's where my day started. But then I messaged her and like said, listen, I'm struggling with this simple thing. How to make it better? So we chatted on the phone. Got home last night and we didn't swim because it's too cold. So we spent 20 minutes. Yeah. So the pool's too cold, the heating's broken. So now we're going to swim and bath in the pool. So we try getting into the pool, it's too cold. So this is 20 minutes later, now we're late to go to bed. So now I'm like, let's just go have a hot bath quickly, make the bath too hot. So I'm in the bath, I've got both my kids sitting on the edge of the bath. James has a scratch on his knee, he won't get in. So now we're even later to get into bed. So I'm just getting frustrated. Now, both of them are super stinky because we've been swimming all week and showering in the pool. So they need to wash their hair. So Emily has hair like yours, and she now doesn't want her pigtails taken out. So I'm at a mental breaking point of like, it's 10 to 9, I want to just get to bed earlier to get here earlier and all this stuff. Emily doesn't want to wash her hair. So mentally, I'm like really struggling with how to deal with my kids. And I said to Vicky last night, like, I was a little bit emotional, sad, like we watched a little bit of series, and then straight afterwards it finished, I'm like, can we talk? And then I just said, like, I don't know what to do. And my first thing is to, like, do I need to go see somebody to get this, like, I don't know, it's like stupid rage, like, away. And I just chatted to her and I said, it's not that. I need to just keep training, keep waking up tomorrow, trying to do better, get more sleep. I think that's maybe the one thing. So, like, my first thought was, should I go and find someone to go and talk to? And I'm like, but I've got that around you. I can just come talk to you. When I see you, we can chat. We can go over it and like whatever it is, but let me just go back to getting better sleep. So what did I do? I just went straight to bed. I feel pretty good today. I apologized to him this morning because Emily got hiding in the bath and it looked worse than what it was. But I mean, I'm trying to get guys to now talk more openly. So I think the big factor that I think people can come and do is come see me, come see you, but then come see Neal for like a very good in-depth discussion and then kind of take it from there, you know?
Something that I'll add to that is like, if you look at someone who has a fantastic physique, they didn't wake up one day and they were like, I don't know how this happened. Okay. Or like a super rich businessman, they put strategies in place that they know every single day they're going to do X, Y, and Z because they have a goal in mind. And mental health is not that different. If you're going to say, I kind of just hope that in the future I'm happier, it's not going to happen. There has to be very strategic, implementable things that you're putting into your day that are non-negotiables in your day to end up in a mentally well place. It's not going to happen where you just wake up and you're like, hey, mental six-pack.
So I think what you said there, so I think like for a lot of us, we kind of don't struggle with that until we realize, shit, okay, I've got extra things on my plate now, kids, whatever it is, business, like all these things start adding. And because we've never struggled with, like we've always done nutrition, so I'm fine with nutrition. I mean, drinking the stupid green juice here, quickly grab the collagen to throw in the thing, whatever.
I tasted that, it's horrendous. I don't know what's in there.
We'll talk about this now, actually, that's why I brought it up.
Don't talk about that. No one wants to know.
So I think for someone like me, it's very easy to be healthy. I can eat well, I can change that, I can tweak it, I can do a fast, do a 3-day fast. Like, that's easy for me. Like, yes, it's mentally challenged to do a few things and I need to still prep and do a whole bunch of things. But the mental health side, I really struggle. So you're saying prepping for that. What are a couple of basic things that we can do? Because what's the other topic that you mentioned now? Like for yourself, like just self-help or self-awareness.
Yeah, well, it's self-awareness. So you need to be able to stay present and not react to certain things. So if someone does something to you, are you just reacting to it, or are you taking it in and choosing how you want to respond? And there's a difference to that type of thing. So there in the bath, where you may be getting frustrated, are you reacting to the energy back to your kids and you're kind of adding fuel to the fire, or are you just going to go, okay, cool, is there a different way to approach this, and respond into a different manner that's going to get a different reaction out of your kids? Because often we just react, someone says something and you retaliate, and then all of a sudden there's a commotion. But how do you learn to be in that sort of space? And you can get that through exercise, where, okay, I'm doing this workout, this is really tough now, oh, I'm going to die, or whatever the case is. Or you can learn to take that in, okay, I'm in control, I can choose to do this one rep at a time. How am I going to pace this? Where am I staying within that moment of this difficult situation? You can do that through meditation, learning to know that you are not your thoughts, and you get to decide what the thoughts that I'm having is or isn't, and how to respond to that, or whatever aspect you sort of find with that. You can choose to learn those processes. But like Ben's saying, that is also a muscle. It takes time to develop that, and if you are not using it, you also lose it, and if you're not practicing it, you're not going to have it. So in those different aspects, you want to find what works for you, or where you prefer to be, that you're getting the most out of something. And that's going to be different for every person. So, that's, again, whether it's nutrition, fitness, there's not a one size or a one shoe for everyone that's going to just fit in and you're going to walk away feeling comfortable. You got to find what that works for you, and in that process, so this is the other thing. You have to learn to enjoy the journey and not just focus on the results. If you focus just only on the results, you're going to get frustrated, because not everything is going to happen tomorrow because you started it today. So something's going to be trial and error until you figure out your path.
So if I'm coming to you guys as a client now with my mental health, Benzo, where would I start? Because I've got everything else is fine, but right now not so fine with that mental side,
Sure. So I would definitely start with a blood profile. So the most important, before you can say to someone, be happier, the most important thing you have to rule out is any pathology. Is there actually something going wrong in this person's body that's leading to mental unwell? You must understand that everything in your body happens to flag you. If you get cancer, let's say you get prostate cancer, you're going to struggle to pee. It's telling you that there's something there. It's the same with depression. If you're starting to struggle mentally, or anxiety, or psychosis, or whatever it is that someone's struggling with, it's flagging something. So it could be flagging, maybe there's a thyroid issue, maybe there's an endocrine issue. It doesn't really matter. So we rule everything out there. Once that's done, you start with the basics. Are you eating healthy? Are you sleeping enough? Are you exposing yourself to cold? Those, there's so many studies on those things that you could probably fill this whole room with those studies, that we know that works. And if you're not doing that, that's really low-hanging fruit. Just to sort that out, it's not that difficult. I think overcomplicating this is where people go wrong. They go to a psychologist and they look at Freud. I'm not slating psychologists at all. Highly rate psychologists. Some, not all. They're okay, these are the 12 steps to beat addiction, or whatever. You can't generalize, like Neal was saying. You can't generalize the population. Everyone is different.
So I think what's quite funny there is that. So obviously a family member had some depression now recently, and they studied to be a psychologist. So it's well, just fix yourself, So they went to go and see someone. 3 sessions later, why aren't you going back? Well, it's not working,
Yeah.
So I think it was a jump to that, where it's fix a few things. I know exactly what they need to be doing. There's 10 more steps before even jumping to that. Yes, there's someone to talk to, but they stop going because the person's not boring to talk to, but they know what they're going to be saying. They're also telling them the 12 steps of the whole background of what they should be doing, and they're just well, I shouldn't be here because I don't need this.
And I think there's also a little bit of a stigma set around how quickly you should get better if you're, let's say, depressed or whatever. If you're 100 kilograms overweight and you go run a marathon and eat 3 kilograms of broccoli, you still look the same. Yeah. Everyone knows that. No one's going oh, why don't I have a six-pack? It's well, there's significant time to get to that point. And it's the same with mental wellness. Is generally, if you're in a place where you're not where you'd like to be, it didn't happen overnight. It's taken time. There's been lots of if we can call it psychological traumas that have happened over time that have led you to that point. And people are start cold plunging. You're going to be it takes a long time. Generally, they say it takes 3 times as long to heal as it does to injure.
Yeah, so I always have a look. So for someone that comes to me that's a bit overweight, I first ask them, well, when did you start training? No, I haven't trained for 2 years. Okay, before that, what's your training history? 10 years of training. So I'm like, okay, cool. So you've got some kind of background. You haven't been training for 2 years. So you haven't trained a single thing for 2 years, but now you want to be fixed in 6 weeks. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at fixing yourself over a minimum of 2 years now. You were off for 2 years, let's go for 2 years. So it's the same thing for mental health. And is it kind of like you have to have a look at the bigger process and say, okay, how long did it take for you to feel unhappy or have these outbursts or whatever it is, and then take that long to try to fix it.
You triple it to fix it. And I think something that people also need to realize is like being in a certain mental space, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. You know what I mean? Like that's, you have to take ownership of the situation. Yes, you're in the situation. Yes, it sucks. It's not your fault. Sometimes it is their fault, but in general, it's not. It's not their fault. But no one's coming to save them. No one's coming to be like, how can I help you get mentally well? Like no one here woke up and thought, how can I make Ben more successful today? Like if you did, that's weird, and you should maybe go talk to someone. But like no one thinks like that. But when we mentally unwell, we're like, why isn't my partner doing X, Y, and Z to make me feel better? Why isn't? And we start pointing fingers, and it's like, that's not how this works. It's 100% ownership on you to be doing this and be doing it for a very long time.
Yeah, and that's obviously the same for just your physical health as well then, I just wanted to recap on some of the topics so we can maybe not go too much into the mental health thing then. So water, the self thing, I think Neal hit quite hard, just guys like just trying to get off those levels. Was there anything that you wanted to add with that self thing that Neal mentioned, like any dopamine things? We obviously went into a little bit of dopamine on the previous chat.
Yeah.
Is there anything else there that guys can be doing better for
self-care?
Just self-care linking to the mental side. So I don't want to say just mental side, but kind of that dopamine thing that we don't realize what we're doing wrong. Like we're all sitting here micro dopamining ourselves up, and we're all just at this level of no joy. Like we spoke about the sunset, I think it was it the sunset we spoke about? Yeah, you mentioned the sunset. So again, driving home here the other night after coaching 7:45, the sunset over Table Mountain, like I don't see it every day, so I only see it those 2 evenings when I'm driving home.
It's amazing,
and it's nice to see. And then I go home and tell Vicky, she's like, "You're fucking strange. You're talking about sunset." I'm like, "No, but you should have seen it. It was like rays and this and that." And it's like, it's simple, but it's not something that's on Facebook that's someone's beating someone else's head in, and it's like,
it's the guys in the submarine all over again.
Yeah.
Look, so dopamine works the same as caffeine. So caffeine is something that if you take it in, there's a receptor that recognizes caffeine, and then there's a stimulus in your body. So your body responds by recognizing it via receptors. If you flood your body with caffeine on a daily basis, it starts to work worse and worse. So then you detox for a while, then you have 1 cup of coffee and you're jacked again. Dopamine works the same way. So if you're having little bits of dopamine throughout the day, your body downregulates the receptors that can respond to the dopamine, and then things that would have made you happier in the past no longer make you happier. That's called anhedonia, the lack of enjoyment.
So could that be simple things like, I would say I have a very nice lifestyle. I own an awesome gym. I've got all these guys around me, super, super cool. I've got you guys. I've got 2 awesome kids that do irritate the shit out of me. I've got an awesome wife. She's happy. But like, if I'm getting too much little dopamine in without even recognizing, all that could just seem kind of dull to me. And
not at all. So that's, I'm not saying that you need to be unhappy. Like, don't divorce your wife and close your gym to enjoy life more. You know what I mean? Not what I'm saying at all.
And go to Mauritius and go spend some time with a brother. Hey? So that's not the answer.
So dopamine works as a response to a stimulus. So gratitude is a part of dopamine, and gratitude is an important practice. I would encourage everyone to write down 5 things every single day that you're grateful for and watch how your mental health changes. But dopamine is something that is a response to a physical stimulus. So cold water exposure increases dopamine. You get other things such as TV games, any screen time. Porn is probably the worst like negative association of dopamine that you can have, and those downregulate receptors. So now when you get a hug from your wife at the end of the day, which maybe would have flooded your body with dopamine, it does flood it with dopamine, but your receptors are so downregulated by that point that it's almost irritating. It's like, I'm hot, like you stop enjoying things the way you would have had those other things not been there. So
unfollowing stuff on social media that has any kind of naked people is what you're saying?
100%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I've got to go do that.
Do I have to unfollow you now? I think I have to unfollow you. So look, what I'm saying is there are things in the day which you know are not good for you, which you know you're addicted to, something that you're doing subconsciously. Oh, I was on Instagram. Why was it? I don't remember opening the app. Like, that's probably a red flag to say you're microdosing dopamine. And then it's like, things that would generally bring me happiness are not going to bring me as much happiness. And the first thing you're going to think is, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. Okay, you are perfect. The world around you is what's wrong. But the games of the rules of the game are set. This is the world you live in, and you can't change that. So what do? All right, well, now I'm intentional about stuff. All right, I've got 1 hour of social media a day. Guys, that's a lot. I know it's a lot. That's a massive time
I think
waste.
your phone does it. I think I did that when I watched The Social Dilemma, which I watched that Azzy Raskin thing now again because they're back on now on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they're talking about AI in depth, and I'm pretty scared after that. So after listening to that, I'm now scared shitless.
Let's quickly just talk about AI, like very briefly. Yeah. Don't be afraid of AI. AI is coming whether you want it or not. Learn how to use it to your advantage. Everything in life is going to happen to you. You don't get this like, I'm going to control how the world goes. Like Neil says, is this in your control? No. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Use it to make money and be happy about it. Fine.
So I think what Neil said there was like, okay, we've got all these things. We're not humans in a cave anymore, going and hunting for our food, but try to do those things better. Like use all those like niche things like Giles meals. Like I use Giles meals. They cook with wholesome food. It is a good meal to be eating that's in a package. XYZ. Try and not go to Woolies, not shooting down Woolies, but trying to go to Woolies and spend 1,000 Rand on their packaged food because you could probably do it better and healthier to a degree, like that kind of thing. Damn it, I was going to think of something now. Carry on where you were. I don't know. Where were you there?
I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, there's so many different things within your environment that can affect you, but you have the control to choose how much you let something in or not, or use it or not use it. So, we've created an environment, where there's social media, which we need and don't need. But to run certain businesses or do certain things or stay in touch, you need to have it in your life. But are you spending 3 hours a day, or are you going on there to do a task and get back off or learn something? Also, choose what you want to follow. Like, are you just following random stuff, or are you actually on there getting useful information that's making your life better? And are you feeding that addiction, or are you in control? Again, it's like choose your control over that. And that comes to whether it's food, water, sleep, whatever, anything. But that information coming into your brain is largely the voices. If you're on there for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, and you're not really controlling what you're receiving, that messaging still stays in your brain and has an effect on you for the rest of the day. And that's like Ben says, these things are going to affect your dopamine levels, affect whatever else, and that's going to translate into whether you might be happy or not, but you have no control over what you're sort of seeing on half of the time. So unless you subscribe to certain things, and that's what you're going, because it's helping you motivate yourself in certain aspects or giving you information that becomes useful. So choose what you allow in, and that's your control again. So focus on what you can control.
Yeah, I think you and I spoke about that quite nicely because obviously Chanel has like a new job now. She's gone into realty, and she needs to be more on social media. Like that's going to be her job, moving forward. She needs to showcase houses. She needs to be in the public eye and things like that. And for me, I think one of my goals this year is to actually be more in the public eye. So shooting my own little home videos, showing people what I'm doing. I went for my teeth cleaning now this week. And Derna and I spoke about gut health, and then we're going to obviously have a podcast with Justin soon, talking about gut health. And I was like, we've got to actually add Derna onto this because the gut starts, in your mouth. So just kind of doing your daily things. So with that social media, what I did way back with that Social Dilemma video that I watched is I went and I made my phone turn off at I think 7. So if you try phone me at 7, the phone call doesn't even come through. It just says missed call. So 7 till 7 the next morning, my phone doesn't light up, my watch doesn't light up. So putting that stuff aside, so it stops triggering my brain where I should be going to sleep, spending time with the kids.
It's very interesting that you say that. There's a study I read recently about screen time in the morning, and they look at social media specifically and the effect on brainwaves. And there's no way for you to ingest social media in the first 1 to 2 hours of your day and not be more stressed that day. When you're in those 1 to 2 hours after waking, your brain waves are in what are called beta and theta waves, which are primed for learning. So if you were to listen to like Duolingo for those, you would learn it. If you were to listen to that same thing in the evening, you wouldn't learn it as well, and vice versa. So if you're consuming social media and we're all going to consume it midday. So they've done studies on when does this affect you the least. It's midday. So at work.
Okay. So lunchtime, go do your social media. And then, like Neal was saying, like go and subscribe to things that you want to watch. So if you open up my phone, obviously there's a lot of CrossFit stuff because I'm sharing stuff, things like that. That's not what I'm focused on, but there's UFC, there's how to fix your back. So like if I'm scrolling, it's guys doing like hip things and back things, and then it's just fighting, and then it's hip things and back things, and then just fighting. So choose what you want to actually do, and then do that at lunchtime, you say. But then what would you do in the morning then? So my morning routine is wake up, I get tea brought to me, I go straight outside, I sit feet on the earth, and I sit in the sun, and I'm drinking tea now to try and start my day. Yes. Is there something else I can do better? Can I read in the morning, or what would get my brain going better?
The most important things to do in the morning is to consume sunlight. So there's very interesting data coming out now about different types of sunlight affecting mental health in different ways. And early morning sunlight's even now a good treatment for generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder, or SAD, which is quite a nice abbreviation. But anyway, so those waves actually set up your circadian rhythm. So if you expose yourself to light in the morning, you'll sleep better that night. If you expose yourself to light midday, it has very little detraction or very little benefit on your circadian rhythms. Same in the middle of the night. If you wake up and you open the fridge in the middle of the night, don't know why you're going to the fridge, avoid the fridge, but let's say you do that and there's a bright light, it actually doesn't have much effect on your circadian rhythm. So midday and midnight, light doesn't really matter. Morning and evening, light plays a huge difference. So morning light is the most important thing. However, we all live very busy lives, we all work. We live in Cape Town. In the winter, it's difficult to expose yourself. You can't sit with your feet in the ground and go and look at the red sun rays in the morning. It's not possible, unfortunately.
Like you don't have time to do that.
You don't have time to do that. Blue rays in the morning. You don't have time to do that. So what do you have time to do? Well, push yourself towards a goal. So if there's something that you would like for your life that you know you're going to be happy, for me, it's I'm learning new languages now. I'm enjoying that. It's something I've always wanted to do, so I'll put that on because I know my beta and theta waves are pumping. I'm going to learn as much as I can at that time. I have Duolingo on in the background in the mornings, in my car if I'm driving. Something that I know this has pushed me forward towards the end goal. You know what I mean? So
is reading then one of those?
Reading's great. If you like, I hate reading, guys. I don't know.
I can't read at night.
So I've got an Audible account because I literally can't read a book, so I just listen to books. But reading is great. If you can do that, it's very beneficial.
So one of my goals, my self goals, is to now read. But I get into bed at night to read, and even if it's an hour earlier, I read 2 pages, and I'm just like, no, it's not happening. So let me read in the morning.
Yeah.
Wake up, tea in bed, read in the morning.
But basically,
do you want some green stuff?
No, thank you.
To
your question of
I'm good.
To your question of what can you do in the morning, something that you want to do to improve yourself, do that.
Okay.
Avoid
so that could
media.
be anything. Could it be exercise as well? Obviously.
Exercise is great.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So even if you're not coming to the gym, just get up to, 50 squats, 50 burpees, get in the shower.
Yeah. Cold water exposure is also great. So morning cold showers, guys, that's the way to go.
Because that's obviously going to release the dopamine.
Yeah.
They were talking about that. So it doesn't even have to be a cold shower. You can just flick it to I wouldn't say like now in summer you flick it to cold. It's still warmish,
still hot.
But just spend a little bit more time in there and just then get your day going. You'll still have a dopamine kind of release.
Do you want to take some questions?
Yeah, let's do some questions and answers. I don't need to pee. Do you need something to drink? You're fine? Okay. Guys, questions and answers. Let's
take a question.
I think let's ask Neal first because I want to try get stuff from Neal.
Questions from Neal.
Yeah.
For Neal.
Okay. Questions.
If you don't ask a question, I'm going to point to you and ask you to ask a question. That's going to be worse.
I think that's super cool. So the question was, just in case we didn't get on the audio, so the question was that, what are the top priority things that we should be doing? And especially let's have a look at for women again.
Testing wise.
And then the anxiety around that. So now you're going for a test. You felt a lump or you this or that. What are the process? Obviously come and see you.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
You'll help.
Okay, so tests that we should be doing, I did briefly mention it, but let's quickly go through it again. We do all of the organ testing because if you're feeling a certain way, it could be a flag that there's something going on in your body. Once we've done that, we do all the endocrine testing. So endocrine just means hormones, all the hormones. And then after that, we look at the micronutrients, so calcium, magnesium, phosphate, and all the electrolytes. If all of those things are normal, great. We know we've got a pretty good picture of health, and then we can be a little bit less aggressive with what we're looking at. If any of those things flag, obviously there's something wrong with your body, and we need to treat that. I'm not going to name all of those tests because it's incredibly boring and it's really it doesn't help anyone.
So Abs will come see you, and she'll
so
go through her.
it's very
kind of
interesting.
like
You come and see me.
what
I've
you may
got
be
a page
stressed
with
about.
all the tests on, and we just tick the tests you want to do. It's that simple. You take that test to path care, or I can draw the bloods for you if you have anxiety around strangers drawing blood. Is your anxiety more with having the blood taken or getting the negative result or like a bad result from the bloods that you're worried about? Is the testing. So the first thing I would recommend for everyone here is take the time to develop a good relationship with a healthcare practitioner. Doctors are fucking awkward and they're difficult to be around, and like there are some super cool doctors out there who really know what they're talking about. They understand that it's I've never had a patient come in and be like, I'm so stoked to be here. Like, it's actually quite a shitty career choice. Like, everyone's like, I really hate seeing doctors. And then you're like, well, what?
Let's get going, yeah.
Okay, let's chat, yeah. I hate seeing patients. But I think there are some doctors out there who really do understand that people, I don't want to say people are suffering, but people are suffering with increased anxiety surrounding things, because with more truth comes more anxiety. You know, the more that we can figure out here, the more we can figure out that's wrong. And I think if you can find someone who you can develop a good relationship with, yeah, that's golden. I mean, and it exists. And people they're kind of just like, oh, let me just go, GP near me, and then they see Google, let's go to that guy and get it done. You need to build a long-term relationship with a medical practitioner.
Dude, I think so I think this might help you as well. So I went to go see Dr. Miller Smith, all right, and he's treated a couple of people that I know that they weren't happy with him. I still go back to him because I've built this long-term relationship with him, and I can ask him almost any question. That's a little bit awkward for me. It could be genital based, or I had all these, like when I run, I get these little like skin tags, that thing, and all it was actually then, so I went to him, we tried to cut them out thinking that they're ingrown hairs. Then I went through to, Justin passed me on to John here, the skin doctor here. Amazing guy. If you have any skin issues, John is the guy to go see, all right? Just let me know and I'll hit you up with him. All it was is that I had a bacteria that actually starts in your sinus, and because you're breathing down, that bacteria obviously lives here, and I was breathing down, and the best place for it to live was between my legs. So I had a bacteria that was growing here, and all I now use is that surgical red soap, that shit that they use to clean your hands. I shower with that. So I shower with just that, like that's my soap, and it's helped. So all those skin tags, when I'm running now, I can run without my compressions anymore because there's no like chafe or whatever it is. So that relationship that I've built with Dr. Miller Smith at Heels Medical, and that's why when I tell you guys, like, let's go to Heels Medical Center, not to see him, but he's got a female doctor there that's also awesome. And I think the relationship, obviously I want you to go to see Ben because like it'll just make more sense, because then he talks to me. He's obviously not going to share open stuff. Like if you go to him about your genitalia, he's not going to share that with me. He's going to keep that to himself, but he's going to say, I'm helping Alex with X, Y, or Z, So I think being comfortable with your doctor is by far. So I wouldn't say go find a doctor now that you need to get comfortable with, but maybe switch doctors. So come and chat to me, or chat to Ben. Ben's super cool. We talk about super awkward things very often, but we've got a good relationship. But I mean, I'm like, hey Ben, I like WhatsApp him. Dude, what do I do about this? He reads it when he reads it. It's a week later. Neal says, hey dude, have you heard from Ben? Because he doesn't even reply to us. Like we're very good friends even, but he's busy and he'll get to it when he gets to it. But try and have that relationship where you can speak to someone quite openly. Even like some things I wouldn't even ask Vicky. Like I'd actually ask Ben. Then I'll ask Vicky and she's like, but I would have told you that. So she's like, I'm like, why didn't you just ask me? So I think just try and find a relationship with someone is probably the starting.
For sure. And what I would also recommend is I want to call it a hospital buddy. So if you're going to the doctor, go with someone who you trust. Guys, I'm sure we all remember the first time we had to go to the doctor without our mom. It's the worst. Or like make an appointment. But like that's if you think back to that, like there's a lot of like when you're the one getting the diagnosis, when you're the one there's like you're almost a little bit walled off to accepting information, and then you leave the office and you're like, what did he actually say? I remember he said something about this, but if you take someone who it doesn't affect their body, they remember everything. So drag your partner.
Yeah, that's maybe very good. So that's happened twice in my life. So my mom, quite a few years ago, like 8 years ago, had that lung disease, and she was petrified going to the doctor all the time. So I would go with her. I would even record then. I'm like, hey, sorry, doc, I'm just going to record it because I'm hoping I take it in. But my mom would often walk away from the consultation. What did he say? Oh no, everything's better. but it was actually like an in-depth conversation of like, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, change your medication, like X, Y, Z. And she didn't actually take anything in because she's so stressed about going for that checkup to make sure that it's not lung cancer or like whatever it was,
Yeah, so until you've developed a relationship with the doctor who you feel super comfortable with, take a buddy along. If that oak's got a problem with you bringing someone, big red flag. Just don't go back there. And also, like, trust your gut. If you have a bad feeling, like you go to a doctor and you're like, I feel uncomfortable, this guy's a kind of a creep, or like, I don't feel good about this, trust that. Don't be like, I'm just being silly or whatever. Walk away and never go back. There's like 10 doctors in 5 kilometer radius, so you have options. Like, trust your gut.
On that, I think, Ben, you could probably also answer this a little bit better. Like, you seeing a doctor, but he's still giving you, yes, he has knowledge and, he's studying and have it, but it's still his opinion. Like, you have the choice to decide, am I using that information or not? Like, I got stitches on my hand the other day. The doctor wanted to give me anti-inflammatories, antibiotics. He wanted to give me a sick note. I was like, dude, I don't need all of that. Like, I don't need your, like, I can undertake that in and understand and decide what's for me or what's not. If I have a question, I can also, if I'm unsure and I'm not sure he's giving me an answer, I can go talk to someone else, all right? Whatever that person's saying to you is not written in stone because they have a DR behind their name. You can take that information, go somewhere else and get a second opinion if need to. So also be aware of that. Like, we've been taught to like just, take, if you want to, for lack of a better word, like this establishment and sort of obey what that's sort of been said. It's information. You decide what you want to do with that. You in control again. Take that control and go ahead. So, whether it's to Ben or someone else, you can come and have another opinion. Get something. If you don't feel you're getting the best advice somewhere.
Guys, please do that. So over the couple of years and just more with personal stuff as well, I'll go see someone. I'll even just phone Justin. So I'll phone Justin that was here earlier. Justin, this is wrong. X, Y, Z. Okay, cool. Then I actually go to Ben for like a proper consultation. Then I'll actually go to Dr. Miller-Smith, get his advice as well, just so that I'm like painting this big picture. And after that, I will still, like Vicky the other day, she was a little bit sick now. I thought she had flipping pneumonia again. So she's sick again. So she went to her doctor, who she prefers, which is fine. So I texted her, hey man, let me know what meds I must get on the way home, because I've got meds at home. So she's like, no, I got it already. Got home, I've got half the meds that she got at home, so she didn't need to even get more. And then the other half, I wanted to say, like, did you ask him for a 3-day course, not a 5-day course? So, like, she got an antibiotic, obviously because she's got something that she needs to fix. But, like, ask him for a 3-day course, rather. Because now you take a 5-day course of a specific one, which could have actually just been done with 3 days, and now your gut isn't so badly damaged over 5 days. Now, you can actually try shorten that gut damage window. So there's so many other little things that you need to take on yourself to be like, I don't actually need that medicine. I'm almost here, So try. So we spoke about it in the previous podcast, and we're probably going to do a full podcast on it where we're going to go into depth of like what you should and shouldn't be doing after seeing a doctor. Rather do the 5 steps that we're talking about. Are you like? Does your doctor ask you when you go there? Are you drinking water? Have you had enough sleep last night? How's your sleep? They just ask you what's wrong. You tell them I've got like a cough. They check your cough. You've got snot, shit, phlegm coming out of your face, and they give you antibiotic. There's no like, hey man, are you doing these 5 steps?
That being said, I will also just add, there are certain things, and I hate medicine. I'm very against medicine. But there are certain things that need medicine that you must do, and you must do it for the prolonged period of time. So like certain antibiotics you do need to take for 5 days, some for 14 days, some for 6 months.
But ask the question.
But
ask the question.
be
so
willing
I
to
always
ask the
like,
questions.
hey Muller, can I just take a 3-day?
Yes.
Or even when I had my teeth pulled out, I sent him pictures of what it was. And I said, listen, nothing's wrong with my mouth. I obviously don't want the doctor, or the doctors are taking massive precautions to make sure there's no infection. But come day 1, day 2 afterwards, if nothing's happening, can I just stop the antibiotic, or whatever it is, or get a shorter
The answer is
course?
no. Don't stop the antibiotic. Finish your course of antibiotics.
Well, that's what he said. He's like, dude, just finish it. It's your teeth. You don't want to get a bone infection.
All right. Question.
Okay, so just the question there, just in case it didn't come through on the sound. So the question is that, are you supposed to detox, like if I had to detox caffeine to try to just get those regulators fine, do I need to detox dopamine? And how would I detox dopamine then, like to try to get everything back to normal?
Good. So again, the question comes, dopamine is not equal to happiness. So cutting out things that make you happy will not improve your dopamine. Okay, so that's the big thing. We want to be happy. Guys, we don't need to be happy. I think we focus way too much on am I happy? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But happiness is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. When you're looking at things that cause small releases of dopamine throughout your day to be able to enjoy things more, such as, like you're saying, enjoying the sunset, cold exposure, exercise, those things that do improve dopamine. Should you be taking a break from those things so that when you do them in the future, you get a better response? The answer is no. All right. So anything that it's really irritating, but it comes to mind is what's of the earth is of the greatest worth. So like whatever is in nature and exists in nature, if that has a dopamine response, it's in the correct amounts. So little bits of dopamine are not necessarily bad for you. It's flooding dopamine in your body out of proportion to the activity. Me sitting here scrolling, I'm sitting, there shouldn't be dopamine, but now there is dopamine, that's bad. If there's dopamine being released at a time where dopamine should be released, your body interprets that positively. It won't downregulate your receptors because it's saying, yes, I am supposed to be having dopamine now, and I have dopamine now, this is healthy. If your body's in a state of this is not natural for me to be having dopamine, but I am getting dopamine, video games is a big one. So they actually study this. The big two is porn is the first one, and video games is the second one. Those are the two like really out of sync dopamine responses that you can get. Those are unhealthy, and those are the things you need to be detoxing from. You don't need to detox from natural dopamine. Yeah.
Can I?
Exactly. So it's absolutely. Exactly. So now I'm taking drugs, I'm sitting, I'm not doing anything physical or enjoying a sunset or whatever it is that should be releasing dopamine.
So take drugs and go out into nature.
I think that's what we're trying to say. No. Yeah. That's
well,
good.
There's a tangent for that, but we'll go into that.
I would say it's almost like, think of it like, let's take it in terms of nutrition. Like, cool, there's sugar in a banana. Like, that's good. But downing a 500 ml Coke is bad sugar. It's too much in one go. And I can do that at any point in time. So it's like Ben says, timing is everything. Like, you're not meant to be just sitting on your phone randomly for 10 minutes every hour looking on your phone, hitting these dopamine hits. That's the terrible point. Same thing, like moderation, right time is everything.
Because you are studying to be OT, eh? Yeah. So I think a question comes from like, so she's studying to be OT, you don't like medicine, you are a doctor.
She was trying to catch me out there, Gia. Now you just threw her under the bus. So it's not that I don't like medicine. I think that medicine is very valuable and it can save lives, and it saves lives every single day. I prescribe medicine every single day of my life. But I prescribe medicine with an exit strategy. It's not, this is the drug for you and you're going to stay on it forever. It's, okay, you have diabetes, fine. This is the drug for you, and how do we improve, and how do we, if we can't get you off the medicine, how do we get you on the least possible dose? To that end, allied health is the most important thing that we have, because occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and dietetics, and I have lots of arguments with dietitians all the time, but let's say occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and correct nutrition that's the cornerstone of health. Like Hippocrates he's like the father of medicine. He was the first guy to like put pen to paper on medicine. He said, let food be your medicine. That was like, don't even go to medicine, just food. And I think food and movement is the most important things. I think what we're trying to do in the medical space is give people their lives back. That's what we're trying to do. You've had a car accident, now you go to an OT to be able to function well, and I think that's a super noble cause. What medicine has become is, how do I benefit financially from your disease? And I hate that. We see it all the time, unfortunately.
So Lindsay's going into the right space
100%
to practice, and
I'm going to flip and pull you into my practice one day as soon as you graduate.
Any more questions?
So the question is on Ozempic, which is a medicine that we're seeing used for weight loss. It's readily available in the black market, so if you're keen for some Ozempic, don't come to me, just buy it online. It's much cheaper that way. It's an interesting thing. So the question you have to ask is risk to benefit ratio. That's all with anything that you do, even like picking a life partner. That's kind of what you should be doing a risk analysis, and that's what we're looking at. Like with Ozempic, is if you take it, do the benefits outweigh the risks? It was originally designed for type 2 diabetics to make them more insulin sensitive, that they'll be able to not store fat as much as they do. It was then binned from the protocol, and it's now not often used in that case because of the side effects that comes with it. It is a very effective weight loss drug. Let's put that out there. It works. It's made a huge name for itself in the space because it works, much like steroids works. With that, comes a myriad of side effects that you have to decide, are you happy to have those side effects or not? There is no evidence that Ozempic has long-term benefits with weight loss. So the weight you lose, you gain back once you're off the Ozempic. So in my opinion,
So I think this
just
was,
don't.
All right, guys, shot, man. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the questions.
Okay.
Thanks for the podcast.
Okay,
I think we'll put everything onto text in it, and we'll cut it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
any questions, guys? I mean, you've got our numbers. Just reach out.
yeah, so guys,
Really, we
on the
don't mind.
podcast, please go and just put more questions there. We're going to put it onto the YouTube channel, ask questions on there, and then, yeah, please go like our YouTube channel. It's going to be up and running by the end of the weekend. So please ask questions on there. Please share it and get it out there, because we're going to need sponsors on. That was this. We're going to talk about that. That's greens. So athletic greens you need to be using. It's very expensive, so use it once a month. And we'll be talking about it a little bit more. So let us know what you want to hear. And then what we can dig into for you guys. And I think Neal's brain is what I want to tap into. That's why I try to keep going questions there, because he's got 20 years of stuff in there, and we want it out in
20 episodes
in the public. Yeah. All right, shot, guys. Thank you.